speaking of Don,
No.
one of the things that I like to tell people is, I happen to think that one of the key things I've noticed about successful people is who they hang around with, okay? I believe in the theory of association. You become the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with, okay? And I heard this story when I was a young man in my 20s, and it basically said, you become the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. So if you are surrounded by people who are a bad influence on you, you got to disassociate with them, okay? Doesn't mean you never have to talk to them again, but you've got to purposely make an effort not to be spending too much time with them. You don't want their thoughts entering into your brain. So as soon as I heard that, the first thing I did was I got rid of all my friends, okay? I had to. But then I didn't have any friends. So what I decided to do is I took back one of the guys. He was like marginally acceptable. And so he became my one friend. And he had a friend who was also marginally acceptable. And I called him up and I said, listen, I'm looking to associate with you, you know, and I told him about the theory of association, the whole thing. He thought it was hilarious, you know. He said, sure, you know, you want to hang around with me just because of that reason? Yeah, I need some friends. But I got to be very friendly with him, and he was a realtor as well as a real estate investor, and he taught me a technique which he didn't have a name for it, but he taught it to me, and I used this technique to buy dozens and dozens of properties. And I later on called it the all money down technique. I write about it in my book. It's an interesting way that I build up my portfolio. So I literally can look at my own life to the day I heard about the theory of association, and my life began to immediately improve upon hearing that one idea. So I like to share it with people wherever I go. Hopefully it will help some of you people. Maybe Don needs to practice the theory, I don't know. This is my green screen studio. I make all my TV shows in this studio that I put in one of my office buildings. And if anybody would ever like to make a video for your business, no matter what kind of business you're in, if you got a piece of real estate that you want to sell, I rent this studio out for like 50 bucks an hour. If you know how to make videos, you know, you can just go in there and do it yourself. If you need help, I'll come in and help you get going with it. One of the cool things you can do with it, with a green screen, is you can stand in front of the camera and you can say, hey, I got a property on 125 South 5th Street. I'm renting out. This is what the offices look like. And I can put the images of the building and the images of the offices behind you. So if you check out my web TV show, you'll get an idea of some of the stuff that we can do with this. So if you ever want to make any videos for your business, don't forget to call your new buddy, Phil Falcone. Right? This here is a picture of a suitcase full of money. I often use this whenever I'm bidding on a piece of property and they want to know proof of funds.
Yeah.
I just email them this picture. I go, here you go. I told you it's a cash offer.
You could get a picture of that.
One of the things that I do that a lot of landlords don't do is I like to call multiple profit generators, okay? What a lot of landlords do is they have an apartment for rent, and it's been for rent for a couple of months, and you finally get a good tenant, and you rent to him, and he pays you the money in cash, you sign the lease, you give him the keys, you're walking out the door, and you're patting yourself on the back. You're so proud of yourself, aren't you? Right? Well, what I'm here to tell you is you are screwing up big time because there's 100 other things that you could be doing on top of the rent. And I write about them all in my book. I got a whole huge chapter on multiple profit generators, but I'll give you just a few of them, okay? Coin-operated washers and dryers. Make sure you're putting them in any building you can, okay? Vending machines. If you can put vending machines in your building, you got to have them. Mac machines, all right? Now, those are things that not everybody can do because you might not have a building that can justify a vending machine or a Mac machine. I'll give you some things that you can do in other buildings. You can do this in a duplex, for example, or a quad, or whatever you have. DirecTV. Ask yourself this. What does everyone who moves into this building gonna do? They're all gonna get cable, right? So why not provide it for them? Get DirecTV. I got DirecTV dishes on every building I got, okay? And if you pay the account for DirecTV, and then each new receiver, you pay $5 a month for each receiver. So you can throw a receiver in every tenant's apartment, charge them $47 for it. Okay? So another thing I do is wireless internet. Why are you going to let your tenants move into your building, call Comcast, and go get a $25 a month internet? I call Comcast, I get a wireless router, I set up a couple of them if the building's big enough, and I tell the tenants, would you like wireless internet? Guess what? I provide that. It's only $25 a month. And I provide the wireless internet for them. I also ask them, are you going to get a landline? Are you going to get a landline phone? Because if you are, I'll provide one for you. You don't need to call Verizon, right? You put phone systems in some of your buildings, I'm telling you, it's great money. Great money. Another thing I do is ask them if there's anything this apartment doesn't have that you would like it to have. They might say, well, it doesn't have a garage, and I have 2 young daughters with bicycles. I wish it had a shed. I'll tell you what, I'll get you a shed. So I go out, I get a price on a shed. Shed's $300. I call the guy back up, I say, I'll tell you what, I'll put a shed in for you. It's going to cost you $30 a month. Simple formula I use. I divide it by 10. It's a 1-year lease. And I want to make sure that they're going to pay for that shed in full before they leave. So I buy a $300 shed, I put it in for them, I charge them $30 a month on top of the rent. They're thrilled, they love me, okay? Guess what? They lived there for 5 years, they're paying me that $30 the whole way. Plus, the shed, doesn't that make my building nicer? Doesn't it make my building worth more money? Doesn't my building now have more income? Okay? This is the kind of stuff that I do. I have $3,000 a month coming in on top of my rent in multiple profit generators of one form or another. Another thing I do, this is my favorite, key fobs. I have these little electronic locks that I put on the doors of all my buildings, and I sell key fobs to the tenants. So when a tenant moves in, I say, we don't have regular keys here, we have key fobs. Key fob, you just swing it by the door knob and the door unlocks. Well, I buy them for $3 a piece, and I can sell them to the tenants for $40 a piece. I got mom, I got dad, I got the 2 kids. I just made another $160 off of these tenants when they move in. And tenants love these things because it makes a very distinctive sound, this key fob. So if they're sleeping upstairs at night in a quad maybe, in a small apartment building, when they hear that sound, they can rest assured that the individual who just entered that apartment is only the people who are authorized to, where a key can be copied and made by anybody. When a tenant leaves my building, I can deactivate his key fob, so he never has to come back, okay? And here's the best part about it. If your tenant doesn't pay you rent, okay, you don't have to evict him. You just shut off his key fob. It's legal.
Commercial.
All right, I'm lying about the legal part.
Commercial it is.
But if they don't know it's illegal, then it's kind of a gray area. And this is a little 7-unit apartment building that I have in Trenton, New Jersey. And you can't see it here, but this building, I got everything going on here. I got the DirecTV dish at the top. I got a phone system. I got hardwired phones in every apartment. I make money off their phone bills. I bill them for their outgoing phone calls. I got the key fobs, I got the cable TV, I got the shed out back, I got the wireless internet, I got coin-operated washers and dryers. I got ceiling fans in there because one guy said, this apartment doesn't have ceiling fans. I want ceiling fans. I said, hey, I'll get you some ceiling fans. I called him back. I mark up his rent for the amount of the ceiling fans, divided by 10. Okay? This is a great way to add extra income to your real estate. And I did this in New Jersey. After all, that's a communist country. Yeah. Now, if I could do this in New Jersey, can you imagine what you'll do in Reading? No one else does this. The tenants love it. They'll never leave you. Because when they leave you, they're not only leaving the apartment, they're leaving the shed, the ceiling fans, and all the other stuff that they don't want to leave. It's a great way to make them happy, make additional income, and they agreed to it up front before you ever spent the money. Beautiful thing. Multiple profit generators. Okay. Whew. Oops.
Good job.
All right. So one of the things that I've done that very few people have done is I've taken an entire portfolio of residential properties and I've transformed them into commercial buildings. All right? And I'll tell you a little bit about what happened when I did that. My cash flow tripled. Okay? pretty hard to make your cash flow triple any other way. I haven't found any other way. But when that tripled, man, was that beautiful. Another thing that happened was the quantity of my buildings went down 1/3. Okay, so I had a lot less buildings to take care of. All right, the number of my tenants doubled, and that was terrific because now if a tenant left me, hell, I barely even noticed it. Okay, because my rent roll, I have so many. The more tenants you get, if you lose somebody, it doesn't hurt as much. Okay, the more tenants you got, the more stable your business becomes. So I consolidated all of my tenants and all of my business items, my customers, my issues, and everything into just a few locations. So I became more efficient because I could get around to just a couple of places and take care of my business, all right? And if you think about it, all right, I transformed it by selling all these buildings. But what really happened? I 1031'd all the money. So it just changed addresses, like I explained earlier. All I did was take the money from 1230 Glean and I moved it into that Trenton apartment building. And I got to keep every dime of my equity and not pay any taxes on it. Okay? And I started doing this in 2005 is when I started getting aggressive, buying commercial buildings. I actually was sitting at a party on Labor Day weekend in 2005, and I decided at that very moment we're at the top of the market. So you can read about it in my book, why I think that Labor Day weekend is actually a pinnacle moment.